Hi! Okay, we are for real live this time. Welcome to our live cooking class with our theme of family brunch. We're going to be making some really yummy brunch recipes that are fun to make with your family on this, here in Wisconsin, very rainy Saturday. Perfect day to bake. So if you're able to join us, thank you for joining us. And also, we're going to be posting this video on our Facebook page when we're done shooting it, so you can go back and watch it anytime if you're not able to follow all along with us or you don't have all the ingredients. Either way. We're going to get started, though, pretty quickly here. The first thing you should probably do if you are cooking with us is wash your hands. Yeah. That's what we always do. Before. We did. We washed all of our hands. So wash your hands before you start cooking. That's always a good idea, no matter what. And then the next thing we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and turn our oven on. We're going to start by turning our oven to 350 degrees. And then we'll turn it up when we get to our second recipe. Today we're making baked frittata, and then we're going to make something we call cherry pocket tarts, which are really yummy. And so when we get to that, we'll turn our oven up just a tiny bit. We're going to go ahead and turn the oven on, and then we'll talk a little bit more about what we're going to do. All right, our oven is preheating. So if you're cooking along with us, make sure you go ahead and turn your oven on so it'll start to warm up for you while we're preparing it. So we're going to actually start with our frittata today. A frittata is basically a cross between a quiche and an omelet, and it doesn't have a crust at all. So a lot of times you might make them in a skillet that can go on the stove and in the oven. Today we're just going to be using a pie plate, so that's something that most people have on hand. If you don't have a pie plate, any sort of baking dish that you would make brownies or cake in even, you could totally use. Whatever dish you're doing, make sure you grease it really, really well though, so that your frittata doesn't stick, because eggs will stick to pretty much any surface. And so we're just going to be baking it all in the oven today. If you have an oven-safe skillet that you use, you can definitely use that for sure. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to grease up your pie plate, baking dish, whatever it is that you're using. And you can just use some butter, or we're using Earth Balance today, whatever you have on hand that will grease it up. Just make sure you grease it up really well. So you girls, go ahead, both of you, get the edges all the way to the top. Get it really, really well, because we don't want to be scraping our frittata out in crumbles, right? And we're going to go ahead and put our butter. So if you had the list of ingredients, if you don't have it and you want to get it, it's on our Facebook page under the event and on our main page. We've put the list of tools and ingredients that you would need, as well as the recipe sheet so that you can print it out and you could make these recipes again. Also just helps with following along if you miss something that we say. So we actually needed 6 tablespoons of butter for our tarts. I kind of cut these up into little cubes. You can kind of mush them up or cut them up into the tablespoons, however you want. I'm going to go ahead and put that in the freezer so they're really cold when we get to that recipe. They won't have time to freeze though. All right, what do you think? Is it greased?
Yeah, I can wash my hands.
Yeah. Oh yeah. All right, and you can also wipe your hands.
I think more grease may have got on us than the pan.
More grease on you than the pan. Well,
at least it's edible.
Oh, yes, definitely. All right, so we have buttered up our baking dish really well. So make sure you butter it up really well, guys. Use a little teamwork, get it all coated so that your frittata does not stick to it. Frittata is a really great recipe for a brunch or a breakfast meal.
Or anything.
Or really any time of the day. She's right. Makes a good brinner. We love to have brinner at our house, which is breakfast for dinner. It's just a great meal that you can make with a few ingredients. You can kind of toss in whatever fresh veggies and things you have on hand, and then cut it into little wedges, and you have a meal for everybody. So that's one of our favorite things to make for sure, is a frittata or a quiche, right guys? Yeah. And we love to cook together. Cooking together can actually be really therapeutic because it inspires creativity and nourishing other people, and so it can actually be really good.
And it helps with teamwork and communication skills.
Definitely helps with teamwork and
Like if you-
communication skills.
Like if something's burning, you probably want to tell the other people.
If something's burning, you probably, yeah, I think so. That's a good note. So we're going to go ahead and crack our eggs into a big bowl. So take one of your large mixing bowls, and we're going to crack 6 eggs right into the middle. So I'm going to go ahead and start by showing my favorite way to crack an egg. You guys can do whatever way you like to do it at your house, but this is a way that's fairly easy, and it tends to not get too many shells in the bowl, although that can still happen. So you want to take it and you want to give it a firm crack right on the edge of the bowl you're going into. That way, when it starts trailing egg goop, it goes in the bowl. And then you're going to have a nice little hole right here where it sort of cracks. You're going to push your 2 thumbs into the hole and gently pull it apart, and the egg falls right out. Now, if for some reason you do get shell in the bowl, you can use a piece of the shell that you have left to kind of scoop it out. They're very attracted to each other, so it'll try to stick to the other piece of egg. So it helps pull it out a little quicker than sort of diving with your finger, which will work, but just might take longer. So you guys crack the rest of these eggs right into the bowl, okay?
Let's see. Ooh, I got shell.
Ooh, I got shell. Here, you give me the shells. Thank you.
Scoop it out.
Scoop it out. Yep, we got a little shell in our bowl.
I think I got it.
You think you got it? All right, you got it. Nice job. No shell.
I just want to make sure.
Yep.
Are you sure that little bit's not shell?
Nope, not shell.
Okay.
You did
No?
good. Here, you can wipe your hands on the towel if you need to.
Wait, is that
You can always wipe your
Here
hands
we
on
go,
your
here we
apron
go.
too. If you guys are wearing aprons, mine's like a nice little napkin.
Yeah, don't be afraid to wipe your hands on anything.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
I've
All
been doing this a long
right.
time.
Yeah.
You have a lot of egg cracking practice, huh?
Yeah. Nice shell.
Nice. Nope, no shell. Wait, is that shell on the bottom? Let's check.
Yep, that's shell.
You think it is? Just a little bit. It was a little. Hold on.
Are you sure that one's not shell?
Nope, just this one. Wait for
I
it.
see shell.
I see shell.
I see shell.
Seashell? Like a
That's funny.
seashell?
Seashell.
That's funny.
I see shell. I don't see any shell. Do you? Is there
Wait,
some more
see
in there?
that little bit there?
All right, hold on. Maybe not. Oh,
Getting
very
shell in
tiny.
is very normal.
Yep,
Like, not even
it's
I can crack it
normal.
normally.
Especially
No
when
one
you're
can.
working, using teamwork. A little bit of shell might go in, and we
But
got
it's
it all.
okay.
Awesome. All right, so now we have our 6 eggs. We're gonna whisk them up with just a little bit of seasoning, and then we'll prepare our veggies, and then we'll just kind of fold it all together, get it in the pan so that we can bake it. So first step, before I have you guys whisk these up, is let's go ahead and add in our seasoning. So the first thing that we want to add is we want to add in a half a teaspoon of salt. Bianca, you want to go ahead and add that? So add in a half a teaspoon of salt. Now, if you like a little extra salt, you could add a little more, or you could add a little less. That's just kind of about the amount that works perfectly for this amount of eggs. All right, that looks good. Dump it in. Okay. Next, we're going to add in some black pepper. And we're going to add in an 1/8 teaspoon of black pepper. If you don't have an 1/8 teaspoon, which we do not, just use half of a quarter, which is what we're going to do. So add half of this, and we'll use some black pepper. And then we're going to do the same amount, an 1/8 teaspoon, for some nutmeg as well.
Where did you put it? Which bowl are you putting
I
it?
would scoop it for that one. We're putting it into the eggs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna do
eyeball
like
it about
scoop
half.
it, and I'm just gonna take out half of it.
That's a good idea.
Because you don't want too much black pepper. Or it's really...
Yeah. I mean, this isn't super spicy, but black pepper, if you have too much, can be overpowering. And how about same amount for nutmeg, too? Okay? Can you guys do the
You can
nutmeg?
do this one. So nutmeg be a little bit less lethal than black pepper.
Less lethal, did you say?
Yeah.
I wouldn't call black pepper lethal, but you want to use it sparingly. If you dumped in a whole bottle, you would definitely either be sneezing or coughing and like, oh, your eyes might turn red. So we'll just add a little.
For water.
And again, with a lot of the ingredients that we're adding into our frittata, if you don't have them all on hand, that's totally fine. You guys can add whatever it is that you have on hand. This is one of those great recipes. You do kind of need to have eggs, but everything else you guys can mix in whatever it is you like. And you can add the seasonings that you like as well.
I'm going to get
A paper towel. All right.
clean.
Now, go ahead and whisk that up.
Okay, I'm gonna like move the bowl like this.
Why don't you whisk right here and then you can tip it up, okay?
We kind of just want to like break all the yolks
And
so that
Isla,
they're all whisking together.
I'm going to have you go ahead and get the lemon
This is a great
ready.
tip for whisking
Okay.
any
So go ahead, we
eggs.
need to cut this lemon in half and then we need to zest a little bit. So you should have one lemon, assuming that you have a lemon. And we already washed this lemon. If you haven't, make sure you wash the outside of
So
it
this is
really
how
well
it
because we're
looks
going to
like after you
zest
whisk
it.
it.
Okay, so native.
So Isla's going to demonstrate here. Come this way so that the bowl's not in your way. Our knife safety
You want to
skills.
make sure you have a claw, so sort of like a C, claw, whatever you want to call it, and you put it there so your fingers don't get like cut.
Keeping your fingers tucked. You're right, Isla. Nice. So now we have it cut in half. You can go ahead and put the guard back on. These are the knives that we use in our cooking classes. Our metal ones that have covers are kids' knives. And then we also use these plastic ones, which are great. We're going to zest a little bit and add a little bit of the juice.
Okay.
So just squeeze a little bit. We don't need a lot. And then one of you, yep, that's perfect. And one of you can zest a little bit of the skin into the bowl as well.
So zest, you just like kind of scrape it on the edge, on the sharp side.
Depending how much lemon you want, you can add up to a half of a lemon.
Yep. Probably don't want to add the entire thing.
You could. Well, I wouldn't add a whole one, but you could. But just adding a little bit of that flavor in.
That's not the thing.
Yeah. So be careful when you're zesting. That's our oven saying it's all warm. Careful when you're zesting because the zesters are typically a little sharp, at least on the top side. That looks good. All right, so you guys whisked that up?
Yep.
So we're going to set our whisked eggs aside for just a little bit because we want to prepare our veggies to go in. So, and our other ingredients that are going to go into our thing. So why don't you guys each get a knife?
Should we wipe off?
All right, so for us today, we've got some sweet peppers that we've already washed, and we're going to dice them up kind of fine, just because usually in a frittata or an omelet, any sort of egg thing, it's not very pleasing to bite into a giant chunk of anything, whether it's onion or pepper. So we're going to kind of cut things kind of small so that they'll taste really good when we mix it all together. So we're going to start with our peppers. We also have mushrooms in here, so if you have mushrooms on hand, you can add that. We've got some green onion, and we also have some chives. So we're going to dice those up, and then we have some fresh thyme. If you don't have fresh herbs, that's definitely something that you might not have on hand right now. Dried herbs will work great, like Italian seasoning, basil, anything that you have dried on hand. Just adding in a little bit of that will add a little extra punch of flavor into your frittata. So we're going to go ahead and get these ready. We also have some chicken sausage that we're going to add. If you guys don't want to add meat, you do not have to add meat at all. This is great just with veggies. You could also add bacon, turkey, really anything that you like to eat. You want to make sure it's something that's fully cooked or you've already cooked it. So if it's bacon, you'd want to cook that ahead of time and then add it in. You don't want to add it in raw just because the frittata actually doesn't take that long to cook, and so not enough time to fully cook through meat inside it. So make sure you're using cooked meat. All right, I like how the peppers are going. So I like what their technique here. They're cutting it into strips, and then they're going to cut those strips into little tiny dices. I think that's going to be enough, actually. If you guys cut up all your pepper. Here, you could cut, I would dice this a little finer, okay? Just a little bit finer, because you don't want any big pieces of pepper. You want them to be kind of small. You know what I forgot that we usually add too?
What?
Is we usually add in some spinach. Should we add any spinach? You think a little maybe?
Yeah, a little.
A little? Okay, I'm going to grab some spinach. So you could also add spinach or other greens. They taste really good in a frittata.
Bianca, what is your favorite recipe that we're making today?
The frittata, it's really good.
Yeah.
The best part is it's really fun to make. Of course, like.
All right. I've got some spinach now, so you can also dice that up. Just a little bit of spinach, like a really small handful here will be enough, and we'll dice it up fine. Yeah, are you done with your pepper?
Yep.
Yeah, that looks amazing. I would say if it's diced fine, this piece looks a little big, babe. Maybe we'll cut it down just a little. Okay, that looks really good. And yours, let me see. Maybe if just a few of those big pieces need cut apart, but it looks really good. And then go ahead and scrape them right into our egg bowl here, our egg mixture.
You can scrape them with like the not sharp side of the knife so that you don't ruin whatever you're cutting on.
Or you can also scrape them with your hand too. Just be careful when you're scraping with the knife at the same time that you're not getting the knife near each other's hands, okay? And then when you're not cutting, we like to just cover our knives. Or if you don't have a cover on your knife, just set it away from you so that way when you're working you don't accidentally grab it or brush your hand against it. I'm speaking from experience of doing things wrong, just so you don't accidentally cut yourself. It's always good to be safe with your tools. Yeah, you guys can go ahead and start cutting the mushrooms. I think for the mushrooms, let's cut them kind of fine, but we don't have to dice them. I would say let's slice them really thin. And if you have like a really big slice, you could always slice it.
You want to cut them in half and then...
You could cut it even smaller, yeah.
I think it's easier to cut them in half and then...
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, while you guys are cutting that, I'm going to go ahead and add into our comments our recipe sheet right into the comments, I think.
Wow.
Maybe it's not going to let me. All right, we won't add the recipe sheet into the comments. We will do it after the live video. We'll go ahead and add all those tools, so if you come back to watch it later, you can go ahead and have everything sort of in one place. But it is all up on our Facebook page right now. You can find the tools needed as well as the recipe sheet. Oh, those mushrooms are looking amazing. One of the classes that we love doing is our family culinary classes, which everybody comes, and we usually have 4 or 5 families before we're sold out, and we come and every family has their own table, and we all cook together, and we make basically a whole meal that you get to eat there, or usually there's leftovers that you can take with you. It's definitely one of our favorite classes, so when we are doing in-person classes again, we're definitely going to have those up as something people can register for, because there's something really fun about being able to cook with your family, and then there's something really fun about leaving a mess somewhere else, so looking forward to that in the future. But for now, we can still be together using our own kitchens and making some recipes. I think that looks good. Let's take these big ones off, but the small ones look really good.
Can I add them?
Yeah, go ahead and add them.
These ones you just kind of pick up with your hand and toss in the bowl.
Yeah, I think that's actually
They're
enough.
big enough.
So how about you guys dice up some spinach here? Oh, you're not adding, are you adding these?
No.
You don't, I think you can add a few of those. I thought you were adding those. Okay.
The spinach is pretty easy to cut. You just like,
Cut off the stem.
cut off the stem, just dice it up. It's pretty flat, so it's not exactly hard.
Yep, now you guys are doing a good job. Kind of cutting it into little strips. You can chiffonade it if you want, which is where you take the leaves and pile them up, roll it, and then dice them sort of into little skinny
I'm gonna
strips.
do that.
Like this.
Yep,
Well, I already cut a lot.
it's okay.
Can't
Yours
do
looks
it.
great. Yours looks amazing.
And now they're like
I love
tiny
it.
little curled up strips.
Yeah, it looks awesome. Okay, dump it in. That looks perfect. All right, let's show what our mixture is looking like. Ooh, without spilling it. It's looking pretty good. It's going to look even better when we get it in the pan, for sure. All right, so we're almost done. We got a few more things to cut up. Isla, you do here, Bianca, you do the green onions and get them really fine. And same with the chives. Let's get them really fine. Okay. Just kind of dicing up. Another trick you can do is you can use scissors. You can just cut the chives with scissors.
Yeah.
All right, why don't you cover your knife?
Can I
And
try
here.
like?
No, we'll wash them all at the end. Don't worry. So go ahead, take your scissors, and you can just take like a little pile of them and cut them over into the bowl. I'm going to be picking this thyme here that we have. So thyme is a great herb that you don't really need to mince it up, but you do need to pick the little leaves off of the sort of stem part, and that it can be time consuming. It's a great job for little kids to do because they have such little fingers. They're so good at picking the little leaves off things. So depending on what herbs you're using, if it's easier to just pick them and sort of sprinkle them like green confetti with your fingers, you can totally do that, and you don't have to cut at them.
My eyes are watering from the onions.
Oh, from the green onion. I always thought green onions didn't make eyes water too much. And glasses help too.
Yeah,
Another
not
trick
too
if you're
much.
cutting some onion is you can light a candle nearby, which will help sort of burn off some of that onion gas that makes your eyes water.
It's just like a little
I
bit.
finished
It just
with
feels
that.
kind of
Yeah?
I finished with the
wet.
chive.
You finished with the chives? Oh yeah, that's going to be
Can-
so good.
Can I help pick the time?
Can I help? She said, can I help pick the thyme? Yes, you can help pick the thyme. I think just a
Pick
little
the
bit
thyme.
more will be good. And then you guys can cut the sausage. And then we pretty much only have left to add is some goat cheese. You could really use whatever type of cheese you want. You could use cheddar, really any cheese, just shredded cheese. So on our recipe, we kind of said you could use both. So a lot of times we'll use goat cheese and we'll use shredded cheese. We're just going to use the goat cheese today, but you guys could use, I believe it is a half of a cup, it's a quarter cup, but you could add a half a cup if you really like cheese. Quarter cup or a half a cup of shredded cheese, and we're going to add about a quarter cup of goat cheese. Sometimes you can find goat cheese that's already crumbled, which is really nice. This one's kind of like in a log, so I'm just going to use my fingers and sort of crumble it in. It's very easy to do, it's just a little messy. So it would be good for the person in the family who does not mind getting their hands messy.
That's me.
That's you? Okay. I know, well, some
Can I cut this
people
one?
love to cook, but they just don't love getting their hands super messy, and that's totally fine.
Can I cut this?
And there's lots of things you can make. Yes, why don't
I
you
finished
guys
the
slice up
onions.
the chicken
I
sausage.
finished the onions.
Good job. You're going to get those green onions in. We're going to
Yeah.
slice up the sausage, then we can mix it all together, get it in the oven, and while it's in the oven, we'll work on our pocket pie tarts.
The green onions make your eyes water less than other onions, but they also are my favorite type of onion.
Green onions are your favorite type of onion?
Yep.
I,
Right after purple. I mean, or before purple.
I like shallots and green onions. a lot.
I like purple onions and green onions.
I love purple onions too, but they
Yeah.
do have they pack quite a punch. So
I like the purple onions when they're like in salad and stuff.
they have to be kind of fine, I think, if they're raw. But you know, it's funny. Some people really love the taste of purple onions, and other people not so much.
Whereas this other green onion.
Well, that's what's really nice about a frittata is that you can just take the recipe and change it to how you like it, adding in your sort of favorite veggies and
Whatever you
ingredients.
The other thing about onions is that they look so
Keep
cool
those
because you
fingers
can see
tucked.
all the
Good
little
job.
rings inside them.
Yeah, that's true.
Wait, can
They're also
So
really good.
one of the things that I think would be good in this would be
Yeah,
broccoli. What do you guys think? Would broccoli be good?
Yeah.
Broccoli would be
Do we
really
have
good
any
in this
broccoli?
frittata. I think we've added enough veggies today, so we're gonna probably. Otherwise, we'll end up with more veggies than egg, which wouldn't be bad, but it might affect our baking time. All right, so are we almost done with everything? It's looking
Yeah,
really
I was
good.
just cutting the final ingredient.
The last bit of the sausage. Then we're gonna mix it up and get it in our pan and get it in the oven. Again, so if you are adding shredded cheese, you could add in about a quarter cup. If you added in the goat
are we
cheese, you
gonna
added in
oh,
about
yeah,
a
yeah.
quarter cup. We just are going to use the goat cheese today, but you could definitely add your own shredded cheese. I keep saying cheddar because for some reason I can't think of any other type right now. Mozzarella, Monterey, you know. Yeah, like the queso cheese. Really, any cheese would be really good in this. Even dairy-free cheese, if you need to make it dairy-free, would be fine. Or if you're making it dairy-free and you don't have that, you can completely leave out the cheese. That would be totally fine. All right, that looks awesome. So now, let's move our cutting stuff out of the way, and you guys can whisk this up.
Yeah. This one is too kind of, you can't whip it because it's really full, I guess.
It's more, yeah, you're more
It's
of
more
a
of like a
gentle
stirring kind of
mix.
motion.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll let you try.
You want me to get those
Yes,
olives there?
definitely. Nikki just asked a question. They're planning to make it later when their ingredients arrive. Yes, we're going to post this video straight to our homepage right after we're done recording it, and it's just going to stay up there and live there, so you can come back and do the class anytime when you have the ingredients and you're ready to cook.
And you want to make sure you get them off the sides.
If you want to comment about what you're adding to your frittata, you can.
Oh yeah, if you're making one and you want to tell us what veggies you're adding, please do. And you can always comment on the video after the fact, even if you're not watching it live anymore.
I heard
We
of
would
someone
love to get to see that.
didn't add sauces, they added like a pepperoni
Pepperoni would be good in it. Yeah, you could make a pizza frittata.
Oh,
my gosh, and add tomatoes and mozzarella cheese and basil.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be good. The possibilities for frittata are endless for the mix-ins. You
I
can
think
add
we've
so
got
many
it.
great
So
stuff.
you usually want to
Yeah,
add
awesome. All right, so you guys pour this into the pan. We're using our glass pie dish here, and you can use any baking dish you have. Ooh, that's looking so good. And it's going to be a lot flatter than a quiche because it doesn't have a crust. And also a frittata is a little bit like a combination between an omelet and a quiche. One of the reasons why it cooks up kind of fast. So if you're making this for like a dinner or weeknight meal, a lot of times we'll have a salad on the side. So we have a little bit of something or some potatoes on the side, something to kind of go with it.
We've got
It makes a great brunch though, a great breakfast or like a brunch, which is sort of breakfast and lunch together. All right.
One of the best parts about this is that you can add whatever you want and make something totally new, like the pizza idea.
Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and put this in the oven so that it cooks. And we're looking at about, I would say, consult my notes here, 15 to 20 minutes, but I'm going to check it after 10 because it tends to bake kind of quick. And you want it to be cooked all the way through the middle, but you don't want it overbaked because then it's going to kind of have a dry texture.
Isla, what's your favorite class that you've been to? Which Carrie start class?
probably the Super Bowl one.
Yeah.
You mean
My favorite was
fries?
a mystery basket one where this girl, she took carrots, she didn't know how to do it, but she ended up making zoodles. And it was so cool.
Yeah.
I had no idea how she did it.
All right, so let's clean up our space just a little bit so that we can work on our tarts.
Yeah, because you don't want vegetables and tarts. That wouldn't.
Well, you could if you were making a savory tart, you could.
Yeah,
So what we're going to do...
Onion really goes with cherry.
Onion and cherry. I don't know, maybe. I mean, I definitely like adding fruit into some savory things. But probably not in cherry pie. I wouldn't add onion. So what we're going to do now is we're going to make a super easy, the most basic one there is, pie crust. And it's just going to chill in the fridge for a very little amount of time. And then we're going to turn it into our little, what we're calling pocket tarts, which are basically like a little mini pie or kind of like a Pop-Tart, but you don't put them in the toaster. We're going to bake them in the oven. But basically a little fruit-filled tart.
Like a little pocket of a pie.
Yeah, and we're going to show a couple different ways that you can make it. So on the tools list, we said that you would need cookie cutters, a large one and a small one. We're going to show how you can do it like that, but we're also going to show how you can do it if you don't have any cookie cutters on hand. You can still make them. So we've got a circle one. This is sort of like a biscuit one, and then we've got another smaller circle. You can really do any shape. At some classes, we've done a similar recipe, and we've used like a unicorn shape or a small little heart. Any small cookie cutter that you have. And again, if you don't have a small cookie cutter and you just have a big one, we'll show you what you can do as well. All right, guys, so let's get started on making our pie dough. I'm going to go ahead and grab us another bowl. We need a nice big bowl here, so grab a second mixing bowl. And I'm going to get our butter out of the freezer that we had.
Ta-da!
All right.
So frozen butter.
For our dough, what we need is a cup of flour, a half a teaspoon of salt, 6 tablespoons of cold butter, and then 4 tablespoons of ice water. So there's only 4 ingredients.
That's a
And
lot
I'm going to
of
go
cold
over that
stuff.
again, plus they're on the recipe sheet.
That's a lot
So
of
we've
cold
got
stuff.
our cold butter. It's really cold because we had it in the freezer for a little bit. Can you guys go ahead and measure a half a cup of flour right into our bowl? You could really use any flour that you have on hand. We're just going to go ahead and use all-purpose today. But I've made this with other types of flour and it's worked well. You might just find when you're rolling it out that your texture varies a little depending on what flour you use. Ooh, carrots. Oh, let's see. Michaela says carrots, broccoli, cauliflower, and spring onion. That sounds amazing. The oven is at 350 right now. So go ahead and measure out a cup of flour. I'm going to fill up our ice water. So whenever I have a recipe that calls for ice water, I just use like a cup or a glass pitcher, fill it up with ice water, and then I can measure from there.
Yes, you do.
Are you guys fighting over the flour?
No.
No? Okay, good.
It's just very messy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we're going to get a little messy.
A little.
That's half the fun.
Yeah.
All right, so now we've got a nice, we won't need all of this, but I like to make sure it's nice and cold. So I've got a little pitcher full of ice
Let's
water.
go wash your hands.
You guys are gonna,
Yeah.
why don't you just dust them off over the sink? Because we're probably gonna get them more messy because we've got more work to do on this for sure.
No, that's over here.
Well, at least it's clean.
All right, so now add the salt. We need a half a teaspoon of salt. So go ahead and add that in, and then you guys gotta whisk it up really well. So 1 cup of flour, half a teaspoon of salt, and then whisk it up really well.
Well,
The flour comes, or the salt comes out kind of fast.
Sometimes it comes out in like little chunks and you just gotta like grind it up.
It'll get mixed in when you whisk
Yeah.
it. Nice
and
job.
And like salt's in a sweet thing.
Well, this recipe, or this pie crust is very basic, so you could use it in a savory recipe. In fact, it would be a good crust for the bottom of a quiche too. It's just a basic pie dough, so we're not actually adding any sugar to it. But because we put a little salt in there, and it'll have a little bit of salt, when it mixes with the sweet filling inside, it'll help bring out that sweetness, right?
Some people are like,
The water.
that's
We're not adding the water quite yet, but good question.
Okay. I think it's mixed up good.
Let me see. Great. So now the next part's a little trickier. We got to get our butter mixed into our pie crust. But what we don't want to do is we don't want to overmix it, and we don't want that butter to melt. So a couple of different tricks of what you can do. We're going to add the cold butter right into the bowl. And then here goes, let's scooch just a little. There we go. And then you can use a fork and just mash that butter in with a fork, kind of like a pastry cutter. Or if you have a pastry cutter, you can use that. I find most people don't have that. My favorite tool, though, is my hands, so that's what I'm going to use. I'm just going to mash that butter up till it's about pea-sized, kind of like we did if you watched our biscuit one. It's very similar to when you make biscuits.
Can I try?
We're just going to do, yep, you can absolutely try. We don't want to do it too much, but luckily because we had that butter in the freezer, it's really cold, so we're not having to worry too much about mashing it.
Yeah.
Just sort of squinch in there. We want it to be about the size of green peas. I find that using my hands works the best. You could also do this recipe in a food processor. I just kind of like how easy it is to just make it all in a bowl. All right, but we got to go a little quick so the butter doesn't start melting on us. So we can't break apart each one. We just kind of have to dig with our hands and kind of quickly do it, okay?
Mhm.
Yeah. Isla, did you want to turn to do this part?
sure.
Okay. Just FYI, you'll get a little messy. Wait, oh, you have a lot of butter on those hands, girl. Don't waste that butter.
Yeah.
Okay, you can wash them. Isla, you want a little turn? It's looking good. I think we almost have it ready. And then we're going to kind of turn it into a dough by using our ice water. That's looking good. That looks amazing.
Mhm. It's kind of like Play-Doh,
It is, yeah.
but edible.
Well, it feels kind of like Play-Doh, but you don't want to eat it yet
Yeah.
because it's still raw. We're going to cook it first. So again,
Raw butter.
we will have this video on our Facebook page, so you can do it at a later point in time when you have all the ingredients and your family together or whoever's cooking. This is a great recipe to make with everybody because there's just a lot of stuff that needs done, so a lot of jobs. Or older kids, tweens and teens, could totally do this on their own with a little tiny bit of supervision for the oven maybe. Okay, that's perfect. So I want to kind of show without spilling it. Oh yeah, it kind of looks like crumbly sand. And as long as you don't have any giant chunks of butter, then you know you're ready.
Yeah.
So I'm going to dust my hands off just a tiny bit. So I think we'll use this green spoon. So get yourself a big spoon or spatula to use. And then we're going to add in 4 tablespoons of the ice water. I find that it's pretty accurate, but if you find it needs a little more water, it's a little dry, you could, was that 3 or 4?
This is the 4th one.
Okay, good. I thought so.
You don't want to add any of the actual.
You could add more water if
But
you need
do
to,
wanna
is my
add the
point.
water.
So I'm just kind of squishing our dough together with the spoon. And then I'm going to kind of roll it into a little ball, and then we'll pop this bowl in the fridge while we make our filling. And that's all it takes. Some dough, you know, you really kind of have to chill it for like an hour. This is a great dough that you don't have to chill for very long. 5-10 minutes will work. You could even roll it out right now. It would just be a little on the crumbly side. So I added 4 tablespoons of water, and I'm actually going to add just a little more, not even a full another one, because there's still quite a little bit at the bottom that's a little dry. So I want to get it mixed in.
There's 1 minute and about 17 seconds left on the frittata.
Ooh, well that's our checking time, yeah. So you can kind of see I've got a little ball forming here. Most of our flour and stuff is mixed in.
There's some stuck on the spoon.
Oh, there's a little stuck on the spoon, thanks. Try to get it. There we go. So if you wanted to jazz up this pie crust a little, you could add a little cinnamon into the pie crust too. So all I'm going to do is just form that bowl right, or that ball right at the bottom of the bowl, and then we'll go ahead and pop that bowl right into the fridge. Do you want to put that in the fridge? Thank you. And we will be turning that into our tarts in just a little bit, but we're going to make our filling while we wait for that. All right, let's move our stuff we don't need anymore out of the way. We're still going to need some space to roll out our pie stuff. So, but I don't want to clean it up too much because, you know, we're going to make a mess again. All right. Oh, I'm going to check on our frittata, and I'm going to get our bowl ready. So you'll need another bowl, your medium bowl, for making your filling. Even a small bowl will work too, just because the filling isn't that much.
Okay, I got it in.
Okay, perfect. We'll let it chill a little bit. Oh yeah, that frittata looks good at the edges, but it definitely needs more time.
Yeah, it's a bit soupy.
Definitely looks soupy in the middle. We're going to set...
Pretty sure we wanted baked frittata.
Yeah, so 15 to 20 minutes on the frittata. It definitely, the time will vary depending on the pan you use. The shallow sort of flat pie pan that we have will probably take 15 to 20 minutes. But if you're using a really deep pan, that could take up to a half hour. But it just kind of depends. So just kind of look at it. If it's not soupy in the middle and you know it's baked all the way through, you can always stick a fork into to check and make sure it's not soup in the middle. Then you're ready to pop it out. And it'll continue to cook a little bit through as it cools. So if it's, you know, not rock hard but a little soft, then that's fine. All right, you guys washed all the pie crust off your hand for now? Yeah. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and make our cherry filling. This is super easy to put together. We're just going to whisk together some of our ingredients and then add the cherries and fold them in. All right, so we're going to go ahead and use the whisk we used for the flour. That's totally fine.
This is Isla's favorite part of the whole recipe.
We're using some frozen cherries that we've thawed. And if you have fresh cherries, say you're doing this in the summer where you got fresh cherries, you could definitely use fresh cherries. You just need them to be pitted. And
But we don't really have fresh.
No, we don't have fresh right now for sure. So we're going to use some frozen ones. But I am looking forward to summer when I hope we're going to have fresh cherries, because that's one of my favorite parts about summer is eating fresh cherries. They're so good. But you kind of get that whole cherry taste with this recipe for sure. So we're going to add in some of the juice from the cherries. So what I'm going to do is just I just put the frozen cherries in this bowl here, and I'm going to kind of hold back the cherries and pour the juice from the frozen cherries in. There we go. So if you've kind of measured out your cherries, the amount of cherries that we need is 1 cup. That's about the juice from 1 cup. And you can just eyeball it. You just want a little bit of that cherry juice at the bottom, because we're still going to add the cherries in once we whisk this up with a few other things. So with that cherry juice, we're going to add in a 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon. Isla, can you add that in?
Sure.
Here, let me give you the 1/2 teaspoon. So you're going to add in a 1/2 teaspoon cinnamon into your cherry juice. Ooh, mango. That sounds amazing.
Oh, we have to try that.
We have to try the mango tarts. Yes, you can use any fruit you have on hand, frozen, fresh. If it's frozen, you probably want it to be thawed, or it'll take kind of a while to cook. Okay, so we got 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon into our juice mixture. And if you're using fruit that doesn't have a lot of juice, that's totally fine. If you can get a little juice, great. If not, don't worry about that, because the liquid from the fruit will kind of all get mixed into the filling. All right, so next we're going to add in some maple syrup to sweeten up our filling. So, Bianca, you want to give me a tablespoon of maple syrup?
Do you want to give me maple syrup?
Where's the cat?
I'll take that. I think it's over here.
Do you want to do maple syrup?
Yeah?
I'll pour
All
it
right.
for you.
Ooh, I like that teamwork, girls. We are definitely trying to encourage teamwork in this time, because definitely families are spending way more time together than usual, including my assistants here, Bianca and Isla. So we're trying to work on our teamwork, but sometimes we do struggle with it. Here we go. All right, and next we're going to add in another thing to sweeten it up, and that's honey. And we're going to add in a 1/4 cup of honey. We want it pretty sweet, right? Here you go. Here's a 1/4 cup. And we're adding in a 1/4 cup of honey. Ooh.
I'm going to pour it first.
Now, if you are missing honey or maple syrup, you could just add one. You could add all maple syrup or all honey.
It's very, very
depending on what you have on hand.
thick.
Whoa.
And molassesy, and
Ooh,
comes
that's
up
good.
fast.
And here's a spatula
I think
to
we're going to have a
scrape
pretty
that.
sweet tart today.
Well, you know, cherries are naturally kind of tart. So if you were using a super sweet fruit, then you might want to pull back a little on how much sweetness you add. But we are using honey and maple syrup, so it should be just the right amount of sweet.
Yep. The other part is that it's very sticky, so kind of hard to get in.
Yeah. All right, and then Isla, measure out a 1/4 cup of flour, and we're going to whisk that all together. So we put in juice from the fruit we were using, and you can use, if you have a fruit that doesn't have a lot of juice, you can skip that part.
Wow.
And we added in 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon, or you could also use pie spice, which is like a blend of cinnamon and nutmeg and cloves and allspice usually. And then we added in a 1/4 cup of honey and a tablespoon of maple syrup. And we're adding in a 1/4 cup of flour. Oh, yep. And strawberries. Ooh, that sounds amazing. Somebody says, what kind of maple syrup did you use? Let's see. We just had some pure maple syrup here that we used. And that's sort of the kind that we like. If you have a kind that's like a pancake syrup that maybe has some sugar in it, so it's a little like some added sugar, and it's a little sweeter, you could always just add a little less of it if you're worried about it being too sweet. But really any syrup or honey will work.
Should I mix it?
Yeah, go ahead and mix it up. Our baking and cooking right now kind of is a little bit of
It's gonna turn
make what you can with what you have. So definitely if you need to substitute anything, you totally can.
Yeah.
All right, so you want to get that flour whisked all in. You can see there's still a lot of flour in our bowl. We really need to get it kind of smooth before we add in our cherries.
So it's sort of like
It's kind of hard to whisk.
Yeah.
So sometimes you can like whisk with your family. That's another good way to keep teamwork.
So while you guys are whisking that up, I'm going to get our dough ready. So we've lined one baking sheet with parchment to bake our pocket pies, and then I've got another parchment here that I'm just going to put down on the counter so we can use it for rolling out. All right, girls, let me take a look at that. You got to scrape the side just a little bit. That looks really good, but I want to get all that flour mixed in.
Now for the fun part.
And I'm just checking there's no clumps. Oh, that looks perfect.
You love this part?
It looks yummy, and I can really smell that honey. It's really
Sorry,
good.
my fingers are sticky.
Okay, let's add in our cup of cherries. So add in a nice hearty cup of your fruit. Go ahead, dump that in. Mix it together.
You can mix it.
All right. You can use a spoon or a spatula. You can also use the whisk you were using, but it might be easier to stir it. And if you want them a little smaller, you can always chop the cherries so that they're a little smaller. I do that sometimes. We're just going to go ahead and leave ours whole today, but you guys can chop them up fine. Whatever fruit you're using, kind of basically imagine it in a little pocket pie, and so then you can cut it how you like it.
It looks
All right,
really,
we're
really
going to
good.
set our mixture
Super
here
cherry.
for a sec so that we can have, there we go. So we have some room to roll out our dough and show you guys how to make these little tarts. Thanks, Bea. Bianca's going to grab the dough. Now, you can put a little extra flour on your parchment if
So it
you
doesn't
want
stick.
to help it not stick. And you're going to want to maybe dust a little bit on your rolling pin. So we've got a rolling pin
I think
here.
it's good.
Let me see. All right.
Like
So
anywhere, it'd probably be frozen.
nope, our dough is cooked. Now, so this is a very crumbly dough, which is what we want. That makes a really yummy sort of pie. So I'm going to kind of roll it out, girls, and then let me demonstrate here. Why don't we scooch that a little? And then let me demonstrate how we turn it into the pocket tart. All right. Oh my gosh, can you see those little bits of butter?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be so tasty. You guys are going to love these. All right. We haven't made these in a while. So you want to roll them out kind of thin,
But not too thin.
but but not too thin. That's not a
They're
great
really crispy.
not a great definition, but they are going to sort of grow in the oven. So that's why you want to sort of roll them out kind of on the thinner side. All right, so let's start by making one with the cookie cutters, and then we'll make one without to show how you can do it without. So we're going to take our cookie cutters. We're going to cut 2 circles. One. Here, there we go. And Isla, why don't you go ahead and grab the pan over there so we can put it right on the pan. Out of one of the circles, we're going to cut the small cookie cutter shape. Here, go ahead, put that down. Yep. And add this. Oop. Now, remember the pie dough is a little fragile, so be careful when we're picking it up that we don't break it. I'm going to cut out another circle. So use your small cookie cutter to cut out another shape. Now, this is going to be our lid to our pocket pie. So we need to take a little spoonful of our cherry mixture and put it right in the middle of, here. Oh, there we go, of the one that we have on our pan. So our cherries are kind of big, so we're just going to kind of go like that. I think 3 cherries for us will fit nicely. That is our timer on our frittata, so we better check that. All right. Isla, do you want to show how to close it up?
Sure. So how are you going to close it up? You're going to put the one that is cut out like
that
this,
looks good.
and you're going to put it
I'm gonna take
top.
that off. Yep. And actually, I'm going to turn off. So now, if you've taken your frittata out, we're taking ours out. I'm going to turn the oven up to 375.
And then you're going to put the circle on top, so it's sort of the
Some
lid.
people like use designed cookie cutters for their lids. Like they can make a little leaf cookie cutter or a heart or something like that.
And you don't want to
If your
match it
frittata
up,
is
you
still
just wanna,
cooking,
like,
you can go
leave
ahead
it
and turn it
sort
up
of,
to
like, floating
375
on top.
anyways, too. Our frittata is totally done. Bianca, can I trade with you real quick so I can show a picture and then you get back over there? Show it a little closer. There it is.
Good.
Oh yeah, that looks really yummy. I love the way the veggies sort of just kind of naturally rise up and spread out and they make a
So this
really
is what it looks like.
pretty.
This is the
Now you need to seal the edges
that
up
Isla
with
made,
a
and it's
fork.
really
So,
really good looking.
so you're going to seal the edges with a fork
So you'll take a fork
and just press it down.
and seal those edges up
Yeah.
here. Let's scooch just a little so we can show.
I look like a pie expert.
And to top our little tart, I'm going to melt a little bit of this coconut oil. It's already in a glass jar, so I'm just going to microwave it up a little bit, and there's just a little bit left in this jar, so it's perfect. But if you have a jar that's full, you can just take some and put some in a little glass measuring cup or dish, and we're going to use it to sort of brush a little bit of coconut oil on our tart. And then we're going to sprinkle a little, today we've got some brown sugar, but any sugar that you have on hand, coconut sugar works too. We love it with coconut sugar. Just sprinkle a little bit on top so we really kind of turn it into a little Pop-Tarty thing.
Put any on the top one?
All right, that looks good. That's good. That's sealed up really nice.
Should I put some on the top or?
Put some what on top?
Like, what?
No, I think that's good. We just rest this on top, and we've still got that nice steam vent there as we cut the hole out. Oh, perfect. So now our coconut oil is melted, and you're just going to want to, ooh, the container's a little warm, so don't touch that part. Brush the coconut oil right on top, and Bianca, can you sprinkle sugar right on over it? And then I'm going to show how we can make it without the cookie cutters in another way.
One of the best parts about the sugar is because you add it last, you can put however much you want on there.
Yeah.
So it also helps control the sweetness of the thing you're making.
That looks amazing. Maybe we can show a little closer. There we go. Ooh, that looks great. All right, so we're going to go ahead and show you how to make it if you don't have the cookie cutters. And again, it doesn't have to be round cookie cutters. You could use any shaped cookie cutter at all, as long as you seal those edges up tight so your pie stuff doesn't go everywhere. So for the other kind, I'm going to actually just use our fork here, but you could also use a knife. You could use the plastic knife here. Actually, maybe I'll use the plastic knife, but you could also use a fork. I'm just kind of cutting sort of a rectangle-y oval shape. It does not have to be perfect at all. Just you're kind of going to roll it out so it's kind of oval-like. It doesn't have to be an exact oval.
Or you can take like maybe a lid of like a jar and you can press it down.
If you have a jar, a lid of a jar does work great. You're right. You can use pretty much anything could be a cookie cutter. But we're just going to do that like if you didn't have a cookie cutter, we're kind of making an oval shape. And let me kind of hold it up to show. It's just a very weird shaped oval. And then I'm going to kind of look at it as, I'm going to kind of draw with my finger a little half line right down the middle, so I kind of can keep track of the middle. Then I'm going to take our cherry mixture again, and just on one half of it, I'm going to add our cherry mixture. This is kind of the way we made our pumpkin pasties in our wizard school cooking class that we do, our Harry Potter cooking class. Oh, that is a really fun class. I can't wait till we can do that class again, right?
Yeah.
That'll be fun.
We might even have a Harry Potter themed live class. That would be so cool.
You are brilliant. Maybe we will. That would be fun. All right, so we're going to go ahead and fold this over just like, what's something you fold over?
Laundry.
Laundry, yeah, just like laundry. That's not what I was going to say, but I like it. You're just going to fold it right over your cherry mixture, and then just like Isla did with the cookie cutter one, you're going to use your fork to seal up all the edges. So you get this adorable little empanada style shape. Then if you have extra dough, I just usually use the fork to kind of trim off any extra dough that might be hanging off.
It makes a really cool
Now,
shape.
since we didn't cut a shape, that's our oven saying it got up to 375. Since we didn't cut a shape beforehand in this one with the little cookie cutter, you were just going to use the fork to poke some steam holes. We're not going to cut a shape out. And then let me show
It
a
makes
little
a really
closer
cool
what
shape.
that looks like.
If you have a cookie cutter but you want to make this, then you can make it by all means.
So I'm going to put this right on. Yeah, you can do both. We're going to kind of do both. So go ahead and brush the coconut oil and top it with our brown sugar we're using today. Nice. And the coconut oil kind of helps the brown sugar stick to it, so it's good. It helps give it a little bit of a sheen. If you didn't have coconut oil, you could use another type of oil, or just even melted butter would work absolutely great. And you don't need a lot of it. You don't want it so much that it's soggy, just enough to make your sugar stick. That looks really good, you guys. Alrighty. And we're going to go ahead and maybe make a few more here. Are you going to use the cookie cutter maybe?
I'm gonna use a cookie cutter.
All right, I'm going to roll a little more. Well, let's get one more on the pan, and then we'll put them in the oven for now, and then we can finish it up later so that maybe we can show what it looks like before we're done. And we'll also show what our frittata looks like.
Another little.
Here, you work on making this one, and I'll put these ones in the oven, and we'll get another tray, okay? That way we can just
I'll
at
leave
least
that
get
there
these
for now.
started.
Mm-hmm.
So for our pocket tarts, they take about 10 to 12 minutes. That definitely can vary if you have made like a really large pocket tart, or maybe you have really small ones, then they might take a little less. So just kind of keep an eye on them. I'm going to go ahead and set our timer for 8 minutes and just so I can keep a good eye on them.
Okay.
All right.
Make a little tiny lid.
Yep.
And we need another pan for this.
Oh, we need another pan. Let's see.
Yep.
Well, how about we do this? We'll get another parchment, then we can put it on the other pan. And while you guys are finishing up these pies, I'm going to cut our frittata so we can show what it looks like. Cut. All right. Go ahead.
I'm gonna add some of the cherry stuff. Three cherries will be enough. Then let's take this very carefully, put it here, and put on the lid. This one's kind of full. We'll take a cherry out. Okay. Now it's time for the best part, fork pressing. I don't want to do that.
Girls, I'm really glad we buttered this pan because otherwise this frittata would be so stuck right now. It's coming out really easily. Oh, that looks so yummy, you guys. And now we already have brunch for today. All right, so, oh, guys, you're working on that here. Move the cherries.
So this one is kind of full. I only put 2 cherries.
Oh, that's fine. So if you fill your pies a little full, you might just have a little leakage, but that won't be the worst thing in the world.
Okay,
So here, let's show what the frittata looks like.
So
Our frittata's all finished. Looks pretty yummy.
I wanna
As you
taste
can
it.
see, it's a little thicker than an
I
omelet,
would've guessed
a little
one.
flatter than a quiche.
Can I take some?
You want to taste some of the frittata? I think that's a good idea. That way we can tell people
if your pies
they're
are a little
good or
full
not,
like
right?
this one, it's absolutely
Ooh,
fine.
are you okay?
Yeah.
All right.
And sometimes you put less in, but ends up looking like this. You never
That
know.
looks amazing. I like that pie.
Yep.
It looks good. All right, taste the quiche. Tell me if it's, or I called it a quiche then. Taste the frittata. Tell me if it's good. Good? Yeah.
It's delicious.
It's delicious.
Another thing the oil does, it makes it really shiny when it comes out of the oven.
Mhm.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well,
Good,
guys,
right?
make sure that if you were cooking with us today, whether live or you cook with us later by watching the live on our Facebook page, go ahead and drop any pictures in the comments or send them to us. We would love to see pictures of what you made or pictures of you cooking. It makes us so happy to be able to spread some culinary joy and cook with other people, even if it is virtually cooking with other people. Wow, you're eating the whole piece, huh?
Well, it's
It's really good. She really likes it.
I really
Awesome.
hope we can get a picture of one of those like mango tarts.
Mango tarts. Oh yeah, whoever the person who used mango definitely want to see a picture of that. So one thing too is this makes a great recipe even if you are a smaller family and say maybe you have a lot left over. You can definitely store these frittata as leftovers. Pop them in the fridge in an airtight container and then just warm them up
Onion.
when you're ready to have them. So it's like a great on-the-go breakfast.
Nice.
So sometimes I'll make extra on purpose just so that we have extra that we can heat up the next day. Really good.
Sometimes, sometimes when I'm making something, I'll
Yeah.
make extra so that I can eat more.
I think it would be ketchup.
You need ketchup. Okay. So these girls love ketchup with their eggs, which I personally am like about, but they eat it like every single day. So if you are a person who likes ketchup with your eggs, that's awesome, and you should put some ketchup or hot sauce. Some people like hot sauce too with your eggs. Here, go ahead and set that dough down, and we'll finish that up in a little bit. Let me check on our pies. I think they still need a couple more minutes. I'm going to see it. Oh, they are looking amazing, but they do still need more time. So, I think we're going to go ahead and sign off, but we're going to put a picture of our finished quiche and our finished tarts on our Facebook page and in the comments here so that you guys can see it. Thank you so much for cooking with us today. It's so fun to be able to share this with you. It's definitely a learning curve for us as far as the technology goes, but thank you so much for following along. And what is it that we're supposed to say at the end, Isla?
Yummy sprout
Yummy
out.
sprout.
Yummy sprout out? Okay, should I? Okay,
Yummy
ready?
Sprout out.
Yummy sprout out. Thank you.
Bye.